What's with the cupcake?
And you're a king among men. Thanks for the time.
We're taking it back to about the late 80s with the boys from Ford Chip Ganassi Racing.
What are you using there? Just a little bit of old school glass cleaner? Hey, Augie, I got like that much. Will that get me in the car next season?
Not a chance. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Dominic Selzy in the Roth Motorsports number 83. Dominic, good talking to you.
Thanks, guys.
This is one of the things I love about you guys on short tracks is broken neck, burned up in a fire. To most people, if you go out and do something that you love and you get hurt doing it bad enough, you eventually say goodbye to that thing. And you've been hurt really bad. I think, have you broken your neck once or twice?
Just once.
Once, okay. But again, on one of those rides with you and the toter going to some race, you know, you were kind of half joking, but you were like, people don't get how hot fire is because it's really hot.
Yeah.
It's like so much hotter than you think.
Yeah.
And the average person...
It sounds stupid, but like...
But it's not.
Yeah.
Because the average person has no idea how hot it is when you're on fire. But you do.
Yeah.
How do you, and I don't want to make this too grand and too just vague of a question, but like I'm genuinely wondering, in your brain, what mental hoops do you have to jump through? What is the process for Justin Grant to go, yeah, I've caught on fire and I know what it feels like, and I know it could happen any day. I get in a race car. I've broken my neck, albeit in a street car. Yeah. But you've hurt yourself really bad doing this thing you love. What do you have to do to say, all right, that's over here. I'm getting back in this race car to keep doing it.
Yeah.
All well and aware that you could do it again and hurt yourself, catch on fire, or worse. Do you do something consciously to get past all that?
I don't know that it's like super consciously, but it's, you know, and it's different like on the day, right? Like, so, you know, sometimes it's the goal, right? You've got the goal, and once you've got the goal, nothing else matters, yeah. Right? Like once you're locked in on that, you'll go through anything to get it. And you know, so I've been through, you know, like seasons of that, right? Where it's you're so focused on what you're trying to do that nothing else matters. And then there's times or seasons, right, where you're not as much that, or days where you're not as much that, but there's, you know, those days it's like it's just time to go to work, you know, like I got a wife, I got 3 kids, you know, I got a mortgage, I got a lot riding on going out and making money, and this is the way that I make money. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, you already almost once came close to doing something else to make money for your family. Yeah.
And I know you make you can make really good money doing this. It's a very performance-based industry.
It's very performance-based.
But like,
yes.
You know, you could hurt yourself bad enough one time and go like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
But you haven't gotten to that point yet, and you've hurt yourself pretty bad.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a matter of, you know, it's the goal, and I think a lot of it too is growing up around a lot of like you know, like blue collar work and industry and things like that.
Badass people.
Like, you know, construction and heavy equipment and those things, is that it's like you get hurt doing anything.
Car
and
drivers.
It's not something that I'm never the guy that's like, well, I don't think about it, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think about it. You cannot think about it, right? Like, it's just like I don't know, maybe when I weigh it out on the risk reward, that it weighs, you know, it's still heavier on the reward than the risk.
That's a very Travis Pastrana answer. I want to change gears here. You talked about your parents. Your mom's family was in construction, and that's where you got a little bit of that upbringing. Your dad was a very just kind of, hey, we got to fix it, so we're going to fix it. And I feel like, how old are you right now?
33.
So you're barely older than me. I feel like even though you may have grown up in the same generation, you probably weren't, let's go to YouTube and learn how to do it. You probably just did shit and figured it out, right?
Yeah. However, I do love being able to just go on the internet. Like you can fix anything.
Yeah.
Like you literally don't have to know how to do anything.
No.
Like if you know like right is tight and left is loose.
Yeah.
Like you can do anything. You just YouTube it.
YouTube will definitely.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Unfortunately, it teaches people how to do really great things and not so great things. But where I'm going with this is, you referenced your parents. I know your dad. I don't know your mom as well. Please confirm to me that your mom, when younger, worked at a bank and was held up at gunpoint.
She was, yeah.
Your
Why
mother
do you
was
know that?
Your mother was a bank teller who was held up at gunpoint.
Yes, in Montana.
I knew I left that part out.
Why do you know that?
Why do I know it?
Yeah.
It was just a story probably told one day at Midget Week when I was rolling around with you and Clinton.
Yeah.
Do you remember that story at all?
That's basically like really all I know.
That is the story.
That is the story.
And
that,
she obviously survived the encounter.
Survived the encounter. Yeah. It was before I was born.
Yes.
But yeah, she was she was the one that they took around, at gunpoint.
Oh my God, they actually
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, so hopefully she doesn't watch this and have a bunch of trauma.
I was gonna say, can she go into a bank today? When you're like, hey, Mom,
no, she doesn't really. No, she never really she can do it because she's just a hard ass. But
because not even joking. That's a traumatic thing.
Yeah. She doesn't She's never liked going in banks, but she will. She'll do it.
Yeah, I didn't know that she was carried around with a gun pointed at her.
Yeah, it was before I was born.
Yeah, but who cares?
Yeah, pretty gnarly.
I don't want to have a gun pointed at me.
Yeah, no,
whether I got kids or not.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay. So I'm glad that brings really nothing to the racing part of this program.
Yeah.
But I just think that's
Just
a crazy
snippet for you.
Yeah, that's a little tidbit on Teresa, Justin's mom.
So you've never really met my mom.
I've hung out with her at a few races,
Okay.
but she probably told us that story, or your dad told us that story, and I've never stopped thinking about it.
Yeah.
I can't watch you on flow and not be like, his mom was in a bank robbery once and not on the good end of it. That's crazy. Your dad, you've told me the story before in this very shop. Your dad was really sick for a while, and that kind of did it threaten your driving career, or were you still too young? Where were you at when your dad got sick?
I was I was probably 13. So he was really ill from the time I was 13 to probably 16. He started getting better, but he was still not great until I was maybe 18 or so. And then his health started kind of coming back around. He had gotten I don't know if he wants me sharing all this with everybody, but sorry. And he had gotten hepatitis C from a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
Before he'd broke his femur snow skiing.
Oh wow.
And was bleeding out or whatever and had to get blood.
Oh my gosh.
And because him and his buddies, they were pretty big snow skiers. They'd go do some pretty real.
Because he's
snow
Northern
skiing.
California, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they grew up Carson City, Nevada, and up in the mountains there. But he had broke his femur, and it was before they knew what hepatitis C was.
Yeah.
So it stayed dormant for a long time or whatever, and then it flared up or came out or whatever it does when I was 13. And it was pretty mega, it's a pretty big deal.
You guys thought for a while he wasn't going to maybe survive.
He was not good.
Yeah.
So I was going off, that there was, then he couldn't really go racing, and we were racing outlaw karts at the time. So they kept my, we kept my go-kart up at Red Bluff. For a while it was at Gary Morgan, Jake Morgan's dad. They kept it for me and took care of it during the week. And then it was at the QRC factory for a while.
Yeah.
But there was a family that lived south of us that would race up there every weekend. So they would pick me up on their way through town. I'd ride up and I would meet either the Morgans or the QRC guys, go race, and then on my, when I was on break from school, summer break, spring break, and all that, I would just live up in Red Bluff with Carl Pavlik, and so lived with him, and he worked at QRC at the time, and then I worked at QRC.
Oh wow!
Building they had they built wings.
Yeah.
For the go karts, so I built wings for go karts during the summer and spring break and all that.
Okay.
So I would stay up there and we'd go racing, and then I'd catch a ride home and catch a ride back, and so it's certainly that area there of kind of going out on my own. It wasn't on my own, right? But I was.
But you couldn't go racing with your dad.
But yeah, and it wasn't. It was certainly if you want to do this, we gotta, I've got to do it, right?
How bad do you want it kind of moment?
Yeah, and just somewhat of a life hey, you kind of have to do things on your own here, you know. So I was fairly young, but I kind of grew up, and did it. And was fortunate that we were still in a position that they could still, I could still have a go-kart and I could still do a lot of the things that, that I was wanting to do. Like, certainly not, crying sad about it. Or, it was, I was still very fortunate.
Well, it's a huge life thing, no matter what you were doing at the time. So one thing I'm always curious about with you guys in sprint car racing, and again, whether it's midgets, whether it's crown cars, dirt track racing, I always just kind of lump you guys all together. You can still survive driving these cars and make money and support yourselves. I don't want any, you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. You don't have to give me any contract terms or anything like that. But for the average person, maybe I'll get someone to watch this who doesn't know how a sprint car driver gets paid. What's the, as abstract as you want to be or as technical as you want to be, what's the business model for the employment of a sprint car driver? How do you make your money, I guess?
Yeah, so like most of the, kind of like when you first start racing a sprint car, right? You're going to go in and at least when I started back here, you're going to go in, they're going to pay you 30-40% of whatever the car makes.
Okay. Right?
And if you get a good deal, a lot of them are 30 or 40%, it's 50% if you win. So, and you're beating around, going to local shows and doing your thing with, you're hopping and showing up, right? Hopping this guy's sprint car, go race it for the night. They'd hand you an envelope full of cash at the pay window. If you won the race, it's if it's $3,000 to win, he peels you off $1,500 and you go on your way.
Okay.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When you
win.
Yeah. When you crash and you make $200 and he gives you $100.
Yeah.
Like you're like,
this isn't that cool.
It's not as cool, you know? So it's very performance based, right? And then it scales up like as you, or at least for me, as I started running better, contracts get a little better. You're with the same team for a long time.
Well, just contracts become a thing probably.
Well, yeah, and also, at that time there were no contracts, right? No. You're just the guy's like, hey, I'll 30.
Drive this car, you get 25, 35, whatever percent of what it makes.
Yep.
Now you're at a better level where there's people wanting to say, we want you to drive this car.
Yeah, now there's contracts for the year. There's all of that. And I don't know that everybody is on that program, right? But that's my program now. It's all contracts. My percentages are good. And I now, we house the cars here. Mm-hmm. I take care of them. I kind of manage the team a little bit. I do a lot of the day to day.
More responsibility than just driving it.
Yeah. So I do get a little bit of salary involved for all of that. I've got and then now I've got great partners like NOS Energy Drink that they bring a lot of money to our team and that helps the team significantly, right? And then we do some personal agreements with them but the bulk of the money is still
how you run.
It's still percentage based. It's still 80% of your income or my income, right, is how I run on Friday, Saturday night.
So that's interesting because I knew everybody, at least in this world, was like on a percentage deal. Some people are on maybe a salary plus a percentage, meaning whatever level, whatever car, whatever series, that team might go out and say, Justin, we really want you. We'll pay you this much a year just to drive the car.
Yeah.
And then you get a percentage, or am I off base? Do those kind of deals exist?
Those deals are rare.
Yeah.
Like I would say that
that's probably the KKRs, the TSRs of the world, maybe.
Potentially, yeah, okay. And I would say that those deals are fairly rare. I'm fortunate with my stuff that I'm salary and percentage.
Okay.
Now my percentage is the bulk of my income. My salary is. I'm not going to live on my salary.
No.
Right, but it just helps a little and kind of compensates for a lot of the work that I provide at the shop and all of that. So, but still, the bulk of it is just race winnings, And
then, like you said, you have a great partner in NOS, who's a great partner, I think, in just so many different forms of dirt track racing. Whether they're the series sponsor of the Outlaws sprint car deal, they've been with USAC for just so long. They're on different cars. They're with different drivers. and again, I'm not asking you to tell me what your terms and what your deal with them is, but they essentially, how I understand it, and you can again either correct me or just not, we don't have to talk about it, but they essentially come to you, the driver, and say, we like you. We like your vibe, we like your personality, we like your look, and we like how you run on the track.
Yeah.
We want you to enjoy our beverage, we want you to wear our stuff and be an ambassador for us, and we will come to your team, we'll come on your car and financially support it, compensate you for your partnership with us. Is that a fair way to describe the deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And then there's just more kind of general sponsorships out there where I'm guessing you could get, Casey's General Store to come on board and say, we want to be on your sprint car, Justin, for the whole season. Here's a check for what we think that's worth.
Yeah.
And then you either accept the deal or you don't.
Yeah. So NOS is like obviously is the primary sponsor on all my cars.
Okay.
Right. On all 3 series, NOS is, came to me. We want to be the primary sponsor on your midget, on your crown car, on your sprint car, across the board. And it didn't start out there, but it got there. Now we still have, product sponsors and associate sponsors and things like that. We have, we're fortunate with like MPV Express. They're on board the sprint car and now the midget. Provide some funding there as well. And then we've got like ProSource with Buck Rice, who's been a big supporter of USAC for a long time. He buys a lot of our tires and takes care of us there. And Indy Custom Stone came on this year to take care of some of our engine rebuilds and things like that.
So those partners can straight up say to you, we want to sponsor this part of your program, and then you just give them a quote, I'm guessing, on what that part of your program costs, engine refreshings, tire bill, and Buck goes, okay, that's what your tire bill is.
Yeah.
Here's your check.
Yeah, and it's just different, like for everybody or for every, like I'm sure it's different team to team, it's different sponsor to sponsor, it's different how those deals work out, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't always, like some sponsors are more comfortable saying, okay, I'll pay for these things.
Yeah.
Right. And
they want to know what those things cost.
Yeah. And
that's
some
the sponsorship value.
Yeah. And some are
blanket.
Just blanket. Here's a check for this much to be on the car.
Put the decal on the car.
It's kind of, you make it work, whatever they're comfortable with and whatever makes everybody happy.
So when you, Justin Grant, the driver, shows up to, Kevin with Top Motorsports, your owner, on the sprint car side, or Davey Step with the midget, and you say, I'm also bringing NOS energy drink with me, and whatever the monetary value is, they're going to sponsor the car for this much. I'm sure you've never had a car owner be bummed out about that.
Yeah, they're certainly not bummed out about it. There is I drove when I was hired to start driving for Top was in 2018, which was before I had a NOS sponsorship. Initially, Kevin Birchmeyer, he footed the whole bill. Right. And was, he footed the whole bill and hired me and paid me 50%. And we went and they had somebody that took care of the car and all that. And
you drove
I showed up and raced it.
Yep.
When I started driving for Clausen, it was the same thing. They didn't have a primary sponsor at the time. Well, they did in, Priority Aviation, but they were part owners of the team. So, or they own the team rather. But they didn't have a primary sponsor. They just hired me, show up, drive.
Yep.
And then the sponsors started coming in. So there was never like
I'm coming to the team.
I'm coming to the team and I'm bringing all of this. It was always more of hey, I just got a
deal
phone.
With NOS.
These guys want to come on board.
Yeah.
They want to do this. They want to help us out. And we good with that? And does that work? And oh yeah, everybody's excited and cool.
Yeah.
So I've never really, the midget team I had NOS when I went and started driving for them.
RMS.
RMS. Yeah, I had already had them. So that's the only one that I've
brought that to the table.
I've brought it to the table initially.
Okay.
But they were also, they were running Thomas without it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of the teams are in dirt track racing. I guess what I'm trying to say, or what I'm getting at, is that in our world, it's one of the few places where you still can get by on your merits as a driver.
Yeah.
Obviously, funding is awesome and helps.
But these races still pay every night.
The races still pay every night, and there are still, the car owners aren't making money, right?
No.
But they're losing an amount that they're comfortable with, right? And they're still hiring drivers. They're not just out shopping sponsors.
Yeah.
Or shopping. It's not a business model.
No, I get it.
It's more of these guys want to go win a race.
Yeah.
And if we can get some funding to help with that, great. But it seems to be more of, these guys like Kevin Birchmeyer and the E-Steps and Ron Himmelgarn, they put together a team, they hire the best driver they can, and as a team, let's go try and win races. And if we can find some funding and we can do some things but they'll hire the driver and then go try and make it work.
Well, and it's a lazy question, and I feel stupid asking it because I know the answer, but you just said it. These car owners, Kevin and Ron, are not making money. They're not. It's not, and we're not saying they're not making millions. They're not making money doing.
They
this.
are losing money.
Right.
Doing this.
You said in there it's an amount of money they're comfortable with losing.
Yeah.
To a lot of people, that sounds crazy. So I'm just going to ask it. And I know you're not a car owner, but you have great relationships with yours. So why do they do it?
I think they enjoy it.
They just love it.
They love it.
It's their fishing, it's their boating, it's their golf. They just want to go racing.
Yep. And and it's competition, right? They're, as much as I'm addicted to trying to go and win and beat everybody, so are they.
Yeah.
Right. It's they want to win, they want to compete, they want to do it, and they're passionate about it, and it's a hobby for them, really.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Well, the money ain't gonna spend itself. That's what I always say with all my millions.
And I'm fortunate, right? Like I drive for successful people. They have successful businesses.
Exactly.
They have the means and the money that they can go
to go have fun doing this.
Yeah.
When I decided, when you and I put this together pretty quickly, which again, I'm just so grateful for you sitting down and doing this because I love talking to you and I think you've got such a great perspective on the sport. Keegan Flatt, USAC official, his parents are staying with me.
Nice.
And they heard that I was going to come over and do this, and they're massive fans of yours. Steve and your dad, Tim, have done a little bit of work together in the photography side of things. But Lynette made a great point. She goes, can I ask a question that maybe you could ask? I said, please. I'm always open to ghostwriters.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to suggest, what I want to do with this is just ask questions and tell stories that I think people enjoy. So she had a question, and I really thought it was a good one. You guys, these days at High Limit, when I go up to interview a driver after a heat race, and I know it's got to be the exact same in a midget, a non-wing car, whatever. When I get up to the side of the cage to interview a driver after a High Limit heat race, your guys' hands are shaking in the car. Mm-hmm. And it's not because you're holding on so tight.
Nah.
It's because the adrenaline moving through your body has not worn off or even come close to it yet. So Lynette's question was, how do you deal with the adrenaline dump? And I think by that, we mean, how do you deal with coming down from the rush that you experience driving a car, having emotions run through your body? I've seen you jump out of a car and want to go rip a guy's head off. And then you have to get in a Ford Focus and maybe drive overnight to St. Louis to get into your Silver Crown car. Or you have to go home and be a dad and a husband, but you were just out there with, 23 other animals driving these things that want to kill you. Yeah. And you've got adrenaline that some of us will never feel the amount of coursing through your veins. Yeah. And you have to turn that off and go home.
Yeah.
Is that hard? And if it's not, how did it become less difficult?
Yeah. It's Lynette, right?
Yeah, Lynette.
Well, Lynette, that is a fantastic question.
She loves you. She loves you. So she's curious about a lot, but I thought that was a really good question.
Yeah, no, it is. It's really hard. It's a really hard part of what we do that a lot of people don't see, right? Or don't ever think about. It is. I wish I had like a great answer for like how I handle it, because it's something that we're always trying to mitigate, or at least me. I have a hard time with it. Yeah, just that huge like adrenal surge, and then the crash, and then the surge, and you're, as I've had to learn a fair bit about it, because it affects me, right? Like,
You mean as in you've learned like the physiology behind it?
Yeah. I've had to kind of,
Learn how your body works.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
yeah. And really, like your body is designed, or whatever, the way it's been explained to me, is your body is designed to take like 1, 2, maybe 3 like big adrenaline hits every year,
Oh wow, every year.
right? Like your adrenal system is not meant to be
Producing adrenaline at the rate.
producing adrenaline just night after night after night
Oh,
after night.
wow.
So it's really common, like soldiers who are in combat,
Yeah.
right, will get like obviously more than we're getting. Like,
EMTs.
yeah, EMTs, like rock stars,
Yeah.
like people who are getting that all the time.
Yeah.
That it is something like that's really hard on your body.
Wow.
It's really, and you'll actually get like I've gotten in the past to where I end up to where my body now won't produce it.
Wow.
Like, and you get into these big kind of like adrenal crashes. And it's gnarly when it happens. Like,
Do you
it's
ever
not
feel,
good.
Lynette referenced a physical pain that when she learned about it, she was explained that you can feel like a sharp pain. I think it was either, she said either it was her right side or her left side. She wanted me to ask, I want to ask, when you come down from that, do you ever notice like a numbness or a pain, like a physical sensation? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. I've never noticed
So
that.
it's more mental.
It's more mental, yeah. And like it's really interesting. Like, some of my worst moods, right, will be like on a Monday after a win,
Wow.
right, or a Sunday after a win, whatever. Like if I don't,
Oh, the day after.
the day after a win, if I don't race the day after a win, I'm like grumpy,
Oh, wow.
miserable, like,
Oh, wow.
just because you've been like, it's so high, then you like
Come down.
then the next day you're
There's
like,
nothing there.
you're just depleted, right? Like, and it's a really interesting,
And
like,
nothing bad has happened. You've just won. You're
Yeah.
at home. You're probably
Yeah.
with your family, or you're traveling
Uh-huh.
maybe. But because there's nothing to chemically sustain that ride
Yeah.
you're on, you notice that you have a sharp dive.
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. And it's like, I'm not like beating the dog,
No,
but
breaking
it's something
plates.
like you notice, right? You're just like, I just
I'm
don't
pi-
feel good,
yeah.
like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So it's wild. And I don't know, like, I'm sure like some people are more susceptible to that than others, and I seem to be like pretty susceptible to it.
Yeah.
But it's a big part of like what I deal with, for sure.
That's crazy.
And now I've been, I've run the full USAC schedule since 2017.
Yep.
It's like 100 races a year, and it, like, yeah, it's tough. It wears that adrenaline thing is it's a thing.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the day after having to sustain it, and if you're not able to, what it then does to you. I'm more came to that question with the whole idea of like, okay, you get out of the race car, whether you win, whether you flip, whether you're shaking a guy's helmet with your hand in
Yeah.
his visor, that night you have to go either back to a hotel room, you have to drive home,
Yeah.
and you have to be a normal human,
Yeah.
because you're not wearing a fire suit
Yeah.
and a crash
When you're by
helmet.
yourself, it's actually not bad. It's not hard to handle. Like when you're out on the road, it's easier when you're out on the road
Because
to
you can just
handle
deal
that.
with it probably.
because you're just by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not an overly like angry person by nature. Right.
No.
So I'm not like, me dealing with it's not like I'm not trying to like not run somebody off the road
Right,
because
right,
I'm so
right.
cranked up. Right. I'm pretty,
Working through it.
Yeah, but like, you go to the hotel room, you're by yourself. There's nothing to annoy you. There's nothing to bother you. There's nothing that requires your patience, really, right?
Yep.
Like, you're just by yourself in a hotel room.
Not when you go home.
It's pretty easy. When you go home, it's hard when you go home.
Yep.
Because then you're, like what we do, right? And especially our income being so performance based, right? Not only are you in there, like, with major adrenaline surge, but like you're having to like go and take your money, right? Like you're going in and you're competing against other people, and either you're going to make money or they're going to make money, right? And
Yep.
you're having to like I mean, you got to be on kill. And then 2 hours later,
Be
or
sitting
the
at
next morning, or whatever it
Sit
is,
on the couch with your
be
kids.
at home with your wife and kids, and try not to rip their heads off.
Yeah.
Right, and not be snappy, and not be, be patient, be dad, be loving, be caring, be all
Be
of
a
the
normal
things.
person.
Be a normal person, right? It's, and then, like the way we raced, back to back to back to back. It's like you got to turn that off, right? Have breakfast, make breakfast for the kids, hang out with them, whatever you're gonna do,
Yep.
and then turn it back on.
Yeah.
Again, and then back home, turn it off. Like it's tough to regulate that.
Have you known, and I don't want you to name names, but have you known guys who really can't mitigate it or can't adjust when they come down after a race? Have you known guys that are like, oh wow, he can't really handle it?
Yeah, there's certain guys that are more, like, and I think it goes back, like I said about me, like I'm pretty susceptible to those adrenal crashes.
Yeah.
There's guys that seem to be more susceptible to like turn it on, turn it off. But it also seems to be like the guys that don't have to turn it off don't, like when you have, like with anything, right? Like when you have to do it, you figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So like the guys that have kids and the guys that, they seem to be better at turning it off, right? See my fingers, Tony?
Blisters. Big blisters on each tip.
Blisters on all the tips.
Is that from the wheel?
No. The t-shirt trailer.
Yeah.
I was peeling all the vinyl off of it,
Okay.
and I got it too hot.
Oh, I was gonna say it must have heated up.
And I burnt.
To this day,
tips of my fingers
one of the lines I use the most, I learned from you when you showed me a heat gun, and you said this thing fucks up and down, it doesn't fuck around. I use that so much more than I should, and I think of you every single time I say it.
I like when you can just like, I'll leave the fucks out of it.
Yeah.
Right, and just like, oh yeah, it's up and down.
It doesn't go around.
It doesn't go around.
This thing's up and down. It doesn't mess around or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've always. I've picked up a few good vocation or one-liners from me. I really like. I'm sorry about your fingertips.
That trailer was Hunter's, the one that burnt down.
Oh really?
Yeah.
The t-shirt trailer out back.
Yeah. So I bought it from him.
You got that on a bit of a fire sale then.
A bit of a fire sale. Yeah. So we were, finishing it up for sprint week, and I freaking burnt the tips off all my fingers.
Oh wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I'm okay now.
Your wife does a great job with the t-shirt trailer. Speaking of your wife, you were very close with her father, Bubby Jones, 2-time CRA champion, I think. Does that sound right?
I gotta say, I don't honestly know.
I'll cut that out because I don't want to misquote it or be wrong. Unless I'm right, then I'm leaving
I think
it in.
he is a multi-time CRA champion.
But anyway,
he was really close to winning a USAC national championship.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were really close with Ashley's dad, and again, we could spend so much time just talking about that guy and that relationship. And again, I don't want to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but if I remember correctly, he passed right around the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
And you almost didn't get home in time. You were she called you, I think, if I remember right.
She was with us.
Yes.
At Chili Bowl.
Well, she was, but didn't she go home early?
She went home early, yeah.
Yeah, so it was you were driving for Rick and Jeff.
Yeah.
And I remember because I was out there hanging out with you and Clint and just starting this video thing.
Yeah.
And she left, and then the minute the feature's over, because I don't think that year you made it to the A.
No.
You were in the B.
We missed it, yeah.
You missed it, you were in the B, and you get out of there, and I think you drove home with like Slide Jaw Bob.
Yeah.
And I like
It's a funny story.
I don't. Okay? Tell that story because I'll mess it up or I'll say something about someone that's not right and
So
piss someone off.
Ashley, just to backstory, right? Bub hadn't been doing well for a little while. We go to Chili Bowl. He took a turn for the worse. Ashley left Chili Bowl to go home and be home with him. She said, we'll stay and I'll call you if it gets, if you come back. And then it was getting bad and everybody's like,
knew it.
No, stay.
Oh, they were telling you to stay.
They're telling me to stay, right?
Because just preface here, I don't want to stop you from telling the story, but it wasn't just like, oh, I got to go home. My wife's dad isn't doing well. You were very close with them. Yeah,
we were close. But they told me stay and race and I didn't run very good. I wasn't really there,
Did that have a lot to do with it, do you think?
It may have, yeah. I just wasn't, wasn't focused. But so then, Chili Bowl's over now, and so we're leave. We're going home, and I want to get home, right? Because she's, just to get home for her at this point. And because he ended up passing on Saturday of Chili Bowl.
Oh.
So I'm like, I think maybe I had, did you and Clint drive the truck home?
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm going to jump in a car with these guys. Can you guys stay, get this thing moved out of the building tomorrow, drive it home? Because it adds it's a whole day process, right? And I'm like, I got to get home. So I jump in a car with Slide Job Bob and I think maybe AJ and somebody else. I can't remember who else. But so the funny story. So we're
I'm
driving
glad you're
home.
the one telling this, by the way.
We're going to drive home and we leave Tulsa that night. We're just bombing straight home.
Because it's every bit of an 8.5 hour, 9 hour drive.
Yeah. And we've been to the racetrack all day and whatever. So we're ripping home. So I get out, I get done with, I'm getting tired. Bob jumps in the driver's seat.
Yeah, you did the first stint from the expo center.
I think so,
And you get out of the car.
Yeah, I get out, I get in the back seat, and I'm sleeping now. And everybody, in Bob's defense, everybody fell asleep on him, right?
Yeah.
Somebody should have been awake with him.
Yeah.
Everybody falls asleep on him. And I wake up probably 3 hours later.
Yeah.
And I pull my navigator up on my phone, and we are the exact same time from home as we were when I went to sleep. And I'm like,
right.
Bob, why
has this clock not moved?
Why are we still 4.5 hours from home?
Right. And the watch on my arm says it's been 3 hours.
Yeah. And he had missed the turn, and we were way up north, and then we had to, or not north, but we weren't going the right direction.
Basically, he missed a turn, and he didn't know it.
He missed turn, didn't know it.
And was just still rolling.
Still just rolling, still just logging miles.
God, I hate that for him.
Oh, yeah, it was tough. He felt really bad.
With all the circumstances around it, how could he not?
Yeah. We were all tired, unamused. He was tired, also unamused. But in Bob's defense, we all fell asleep on him.
Right.
And he should have, somebody should have
somebody
had a navigator.
If somebody would have been awake, they might have been able to say, hey, we don't normally go down this highway.
Yeah, which I'm just glad it wasn't me, because I'm completely capable of doing that.
Right.
So,
right.
not speaking of being in a car, I got to pee.
Go for it.